to Real Shame, a show where the two of us talk about our list of movie blind spots, aka our list of shame. My name's Andy,
and I'm Adam.
And on this week's episodes, we're going to talk about some movies from my list of shame. So Adam,
and mine too,
Adam is going to start off telling us about just what today's movie is.
All right. Richard Gere's Zach Mayo, I hate that name,
Zach Mayo
has a lot of growing up to do before he becomes an officer and a gentleman.
Mayo, I want your DOR.
No, sir. You can kick me out of here, but I ain't quitting.
Get into your fatigues, Mayo. At the end of this weekend, you'll quit.
All right, Officer and Gentleman came out in 1982. It is directed by Taylor Hackford, and it's written by Douglas Day Stewart. Stewart has written a couple of things that popped out of me. Blue Lagoon, which came out in 1980, I believe. That's renowned for a few scenes. You'll probably know this from high school lit class. He also wrote the adaptation of the Scarlet Letter. Scarlet Letter. Hackford, he had a big career, and just picked a couple movies that we've talked about. He did Ray, which we watched for the show, and he did Dolores Claiborne, which I watched back with a bunch of Stephen King stuff.
And he's married to Helen Mirren.
Is he really?
Yep.
There you go.
Good on you, Taylor.
Officer and Gentleman stars Richard Gere as Zach Mayo. Ugh. Deborah Winger is Paula. I don't say her last name.
Pokrivki.
Yeah.
Pokrivki.
Not Deborah Messing. I keep on wanting to call her Deborah Messing. Totally different people.
Yep.
Deborah Winger. David Keith as Sid Worley.
Don't call him Keith David.
Don't call him Keith David. Different person altogether. Louis Gossett Jr. Yes, as Sergeant Emmett Foley. We got Robert Loggia, unfortunately, who's now passed, as Byron Mayo, Richard Gere's dad. Lisa Blount as Lynn, and Lisa, Eibacher as Casey Seeger. I can't even read the thing today. An Officer Gentleman is a movie that you've never seen.
No.
And it's also, it was a movie that I thought I'd never seen, but in watching it, I realized I have seen it.
Okay.
But the one we're watching Wednesday,
must have made quite the impression on you.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to toss it over to you. What do you know about An Officer and Gentleman? Why didn't you watch it? Why did it take you 40 years to watch it? And what'd you think about it this time around?
So I knew that a non-white-haired Richard Gere was in it. I feel like Richard Gere has been gray-haired, white-haired, whatever, forever. Right?
Yeah, it was like a 5-year period where you can get him like this.
Early in his career, he did not have gray or white hair, whatever color you want to say it is, but it's definitely not dark anymore. But I knew it had him in it. I knew that Louis Gossett Jr. played a drill instructor in it, drill sergeant, whatever.
Yeah.
And I knew that he had won an Academy Award for this movie. I knew the song "Up Where We Belong" that's in the movie.
Everyone's heard that song.
Yeah.
And if you haven't, boy, you're going to hear it during this movie.
And I know that, I'm a Simpsons fan, and they parody the ending of this film in The Simpsons with Marge and Homer.
Yeah, when he goes, when she comes to the power plant for him, right?
Yes, exactly. So I have seen the parody of it. But, so I basically knew those things. Why have I not watched it for 40 years? No reason at all. Just like Risky Business. This is another one that came out in the early 80s. Risky Business came out in 83. It's just one of those that I've always been aware of. Knew who it was, knew who was in it pretty much, but I just was like, I'll get around to it one day, and that day has finally come. Sorry. All right. But anyway, I like this movie. I mean, I thought it was pretty good overall. I think, to me, what makes this movie is Debra Winger, but I am a big Debra Winger fan. Like, I always thought she's a really good, not taking anything away from Louis Gossett Jr. because he's also amazing, but I've always liked Debra Winger, and she's one of those actresses that apparently she's difficult to work with because she apparently didn't get along with Richard Gere when they were making this film. But she, I feel like she's been in some really great movies and she's had some really really great performances. But I know she's had kind of brief hiatuses in her career where she hasn't done a few movies for a few years, and I don't know what I've seen her in lately. I looked at her filmography and I know she's still doing stuff as of 2021 and 2022, but it feels like forever since I've actually seen her as like the lead in a movie, although I'm sure she's been the lead in movies over the last 10 years. But I really like her. I like her like kind of husky kind of voice. She just has an earthy kind of natural quality to her. So I completely buy her as this like factory worker who basically still lives at home with her mom and her dad and her, I guess that's her sister or something that she lives with, like her siblings, whatever. And she has this Sally Field, Norma Ray kind of quality, because that's kind of the vibe that I got from it. So I think that her character is the most interesting thing outside of Louis Gossett Jr. because he has a very showy role as the drill sergeant, and he's great in it. Again, I'm not saying anything like that, but I think she's probably the best thing about this movie. Richard Gere is fine, whatever. I didn't find him as interesting as Debra Winger, and I honestly found kind of the subplot with David Keith and Lisa Blunt's characters as more interesting as well. So Richard Gere may be the least interesting thing about this movie. I also think the stuff with Robert Loggia can just be dumped because he did nothing for me in this movie. The beginning of it is just kind of weird. Like his dad's like naked with a prostitute or something.
I think two, apparently.
Yeah, on the bed, and Richard Gere's like right up there next to him, just kind of breathing. I was like, what is this?
And he's an adult. He's not like a kid.
It was just very strange. But yeah, his past didn't really benefit me at all in the movie. I mean, yes, it does give you an idea of kind of what his upbringing was, but I don't think you ever see Robert Loggia again in the rest of the movie, do you?
No, and I was reading on the trivia that he apparently was written to come back and do something while he's at boot camp, but I guess it was cut.
Well, so to me, they should just cut the beginning of it too, because it could have started off with Richard Gere basically showing up on his motorcycle and being like, "Hey, I want to join the Navy and I want to fly jets or whatever," and then Debra Winger kind of unpeels his backstory as the movie goes on. I feel like the movie works better, but I did like it overall. Again, I thought the performances were pretty good. I think Debra Winger is great. I'm a big fan of hers, so I enjoyed it overall. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to rush out and watch it again anytime soon, but I did enjoy it. What about you?
I agree with 100% of everything you said, but I don't like the movie as much as you did. Okay. I do think like Louis Gossett Jr. and Debra Winger are the standouts of it. I do think Richard Gere's really closed off and just kind of just not interesting to look at. I do think everything you said about his backstory with Robert Loggia could be excised. It doesn't add anything to it. And I mean, everything you said is right. I agree with 100%. The movie just didn't really work out for me that well. It just felt like really melodramatic. Like I know the movie we're talking about Wednesday is melodramatic too, but this felt just really almost schmaltzy a little bit kind of movie. And I actually liked the ending. It just felt, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It just didn't really work for me that much. And, I think part of the issue is when I was watching, I'm like, I know what's happening here. Like, I know what he's going to say. Like, I know what this is. Yeah. So part of me was having this, like, cognitive dissonance. Like, have I seen this movie before? Or how much of this is, like, in pop culture to where I, like, know what's going to happen because, it's in the zeitgeist and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. I think part of the problem with me watching this movie it's like, okay, he's going to say, I have nowhere else to go, but why do I know he's going to say that, and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't really care for it that much. I don't know how well the critics liked it and stuff like that. For me, it's just kind of mediocre at best kind of movie.
Yeah. So I mentioned Debra Winger. She is in another early 80s movie, which I'm a big fan of, Urban Cowboy with John Travolta, and she plays almost a similar kind of role. She's kind of a salt of the earth kind of girl, all shucks kind of demeanor, whatever, and she hangs out in bars. In Urban Cowboy, she hangs out at the honky tonk Gillies, and that's where John Travolta goes and kind of picks her up, and they kind of start having a thing or whatever. But it's a similar movie because he's kind of putting on airs at certain parts of the movie and kind of casts her off at one point, and same thing happens in this movie. So maybe it's my love for Urban Cowboy that's kind of bleeding into this movie, but because there's such similarity, I got into it. I dug it. I wanted to ask you, how many times did they play Up Where We Belong in this movie?
A bunch. They kept on playing those chord notes.
You're always like, they play that song 20 times.
Lot. They played a lot, dude.
Yeah, they use the theme from it a lot, even if it's not the actual lyrics. It's not Joe Cocker and Jennifer Warren singing, but you do hear at least the melody.
Yeah, for
sure. Several times. I will say
they doubled down on it.
I think Louis Gossett Jr. is awesome. I love that guy. I thought the fight between him and Richard Gere was stupid.
Terrible. It looked terrible.
Yeah, it looked terrible, and I just thought it was dumb.
Yeah.
Like, it just didn't... Like, I guess maybe early 80s audiences were like, yeah, Richard Gere's finally going to get him a piece of Sergeant Foley or whatever, but I just thought it was stupid.
No, and I kind of like felt more for Sergeant Foley while I was watching it than I felt for the cadets and stuff like that.
I didn't have anything against him.
Because
he's there to make sure that they are ready to do what they want to do.
Yeah,
right?
He didn't seem like,
to make sure if they want to quit, he wants them to quit because he only wants people that can finish the program.
He didn't seem like he was a sadist or anything like that. No. Like he felt like
especially compared to Wednesday's movie, right?
Yeah. And also and I was gonna say this in the trivia, like even to a Full Metal Jacket, where in this movie Arlie Ermy, who was a Marine. Actually, I think he was a Marine drill instructor, helped coach Louis Gossett Jr. And Arlie Ermy in Full Metal Jacket, I do feel like is kind of a sadist and stuff like that. More so than like Louis Gossett Jr. He seemed like he cared about the people under him. Yeah. And even like, he was like holding back tears and stuff like when they graduated and stuff. So, I do think like some of the things he says, I think Arlie Ermy said also in
he
Full
definitely
Metal Jacket.
Does. Yeah. There's
like
the same dialogue.
Yeah, okay, because I'm like, I've heard this before, so I was trying to figure that out.
For sure.
So I thought that was really cool that Arlie Ermy basically coached him to, and Arlie Ermy, we're known for being a famous Marine drill instructor.
Right.
I see in your notes, and I'm going to call this out, this movie got a bunch of Oscar nominations and a few Oscar wins. So it was Oscar nominated for Best Lead Actress, and that went to Debra Winger. It was nominated for Best Screenwriting, and also nominated for Best Editing and Best Original Score. And did not win any of those. But the Oscars it did win was Best Supporting Actor for Louis Gossett Jr. and Best Original Song for the song that's played.
Where we belong.
It does. I also read on the trivia that at the time, Louis Gossett Jr.'s Best Actor in Supporting Role Academy Award was the first Oscar in that category won by an African American, and it was the first African American winning any acting category since Sidney Poitier won it in Lilies of the Field back in 63?
Mm-hmm.
63.
Yeah, almost 20 years before.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I think it was much deserved, and I'm glad he won, and I'm glad that we don't have 20 years between people of color winning awards in acting categories. Like it's more common nowadays. So
yeah, so I wrote down the winners of those categories that it lost to, and Debra Winger lost to Meryl Streep.
That's a hard person to go against.
The French Lieutenant's no, Sophie's Choice. I believe it's Sophie's Choice, which I've never seen. I actually have never seen either one of those movies, but yeah, she won for that. So I guess what I'm saying is I can't comment whether or not I agree with that or not, but I think Debra Winger is great in this. But yeah, the screenplay and editing, Gandhi won. Best original score, John Williams, E.T.
There you go.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the score for. I don't like E.T. that much as a movie, but I like the score for it a lot.
Well, very cool.
It's good. All right, so it's 78% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, 81% audience score. It got 2 thumbs up from Siskel and Ebert, and Siskel listed it as number 10 on his 10 best movies of the year.
I figured, for some reason, I felt like this movie was more beloved. Like I thought it would rank higher with them, but I guess not.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely know people that have seen it, and they all seem to like it. I mean, I don't know that any of them are super over the moon about it, but I don't know. Again, I liked it overall. I mean, I had some problems with it. Obviously, I think I mentioned those, but I mean, overall, I liked it.
For me, I'm like putting it like with a Top Gun kind of movie. Like it's like takes that kind of place in my mind.
Yeah.
And like
No, I definitely got some Top Gun vibes as well when I was watching it. Especially, I mean, they both ride motorcycles. And,
yeah, they're both
they're
in the Navy.
kind of hot shots and
Yeah.
kind of lone wolf or whatever. Although he hangs out with David Keith's character, and in Top Gun he hangs out with Anthony Edwards' character.
Yeah.
At least until Anthony Edwards dies. Ooh, whoops. Yeah. Anyway.
Goose has fallen the coop.
Goose. And Leonard Maltin gives it 2.5 stars. I don't think I said that.
All
2.5
right.
out of 4 stars.
So that was our thoughts on An Officer and a Gentleman movie Andy hasn't seen, movie that I realized while watching it that I've seen.
And again, it did not make much of an impression on you, but
yeah.
That makes sense
I'll
because
probably forget.
You're not as favorable on it.
Probably forget another 5 years that I've seen this movie.
Yeah, maybe.
On these Monday episodes, it is Monday. We like to talk about what we've been watching. I let you start last week, so I'll jump into what I've been watching. We watched yet another Stephen King movie. I think one you recommended, or not one you recommended, but one that you said that we'd both really enjoy.
Because I know it's crazy.
It is crazy. We watched Sleepwalkers.
Yeah.
And the movie is insane. Like, I don't know how to... The movie's insane. Like, the effects are insane. The premise is insane. Everything about this movie is crazy pills. So, if just look at it. And if it seems interesting or it seems bizarre, then check it out because it is crazy.
So that's another one of those movies, just like Misery, I saw in the theater with a bunch of like high school kids.
Can't imagine what that's like.
And we were all like going nuts because it was so insane. And that's the only time that I've seen it. So that was like 30 years ago. But I still remember how crazy it was. That's why I was telling you guys to watch it.
I feel like that's got to be the perfect experience watching it.
Oh, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean that's what it should be like an Alamo movie, right?
Yeah.
Where they bring it back and everyone's just like watches it and knows like what they're in for. That they're in for a very strangely bizarre kind of movie.
Yeah. I don't remember it being good, really, but I just remember it's crazy.
Yes.
And that made it enjoyable just alone. It's crazy. Yeah.
The other thing I watched completely 180 from this movie is there's a new documentary that's out on Netflix called White Hot: The Rise and Fall of Abercrombie and Fitch. I think Abercrombie and Fitch hit hard during my high school days, so it was interesting, and I remember the stores in the mall and all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting to kind of revisit that. And a lot of the valid criticisms about the franchise and the owners, I knew nothing about. Mm. So in watching it, it was eye-opening to me because I didn't know like how basically they basically only wanted to hire like white preppy people, and any people of color they hired, they basically relegated them to the back of the store or to off hours and stuff like that. And like the managers would send out pictures of the employees to like their district managers or higher up, and they would basically say like, you give this person more hours or cut this person's hours based on how they look and all that kind of stuff. So it was all like, a very problematic way of kind of doing business and not very inclusive. So I didn't know any of that, and it was interesting. So I think as a documentary, it's okay, but I kind of like the subject, so it warmed me up a little bit more. The music choices in the documentary are like music I like. So some of it's more poppy stuff. Like I think they play like Lynn Steal My Sunshine, but then they play like Offspring and stuff like that. So they play like a lot of music from that.
Do they play that one song where the guy goes, "I like girls that wear Abercrombie"?
And they talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't even remember the name of that song.
It's called Summertime Girls.
Summertime Girls.
Or Girls in Summer. Yeah. They talk about it. Apparently that's when the owners or the managers or the executives of Abercrombie and Fitch knew that they had something on their hands.
Yeah, I'm sure they were happy about that.
Yeah, for sure.
So is this a standalone movie or is it a series?
It's a movie. You're in and out
I'm surprised. I'm shocked.
Yeah. You're in and out in under 2 hours.
It's not like a 10 episode long Netflix series.
I want to say it's like even like an hour and a half. It's short.
Well, I might watch it then because I was gonna say if you said it was like multiple episodes, I was gonna be like pass.
No. Nope. It's super fast. So that's what I've been watching. Sleepwalkers, Crazy Insane. Then I watched something about a crazy insane a store called White Hot about Abercrombie and Fitch. All right, Andy, what have you been watching?
So I have watched two movies that are vastly different. One was on Hulu. It's a movie that came out, I think now it's been about 10 years ago, but it's a movie that I was aware of. I just never had gotten around to watching, and I happened to see that it was on Hulu. It's called Compliance. Have you heard of this movie?
The name sounds familiar, but I just feel like there's a lot of I don't know. No, I don't know what it is. I can't.
So it's based on true events where there was a guy that was basically, I guess prank call is the best way to describe it, although what he did was really terrible. But he would call up places, usually fast food restaurants, and he would get the manager on the phone, and he would have them, try and do something to one of the employees, and in this particular case, and the incident that this actual movie is based on is he called a McDonald's restaurant in like 2004, and he was using a calling card. He called from wherever he was at, and he got the manager to get one of the young employees, a female there that worked there. He came, he had to bring her to the office, back to the office, and he basically said he was a police officer and that she had stolen some money from a customer's purse. I mean, I think that the movie is fairly true to the facts. They probably changed some things here and there, I'm not sure, but in the movie at least, he says, okay, she stole some money from a customer, basically out of the customer's purse, so we need you to hold her there, and we're going to send somebody down shortly or whatever. Well, while he's got her on the phone, he makes the manager, the manager tells the girl to strip, like she has to like strip search her, and she won't allow her to put her clothes back on. They basically have her like put an apron on, and then it's some really terrible things, and all of this stuff again happened in real life. I mean, this actually really happened. I mean, that's why they made this movie. So it's one of those movies that it's hard to call it a good movie because it's uncomfortable to watch, because that this actually, or something very much like this actually happened in real life. But I think it's very well done, and it's well made, it's well acted, all those kinds of things. But again, this is not a movie that you just sit down and like, I'm going to have a great time watching a movie today. It's horrible, right? I mean, it's horrible what the guy did. It's horrible what the manager did to the young lady and what she had to go through. And I know in real life, once the whole ordeal was, again, I'm not going to say everything she had to go through, but once the whole ordeal was over, she ended up suing and, all this kind of thing. So it was just a horrible, horrible thing, but they did make a movie about it. And it is on Hulu if you are inclined to watch it. Again, it's one of those movies that it's hard to recommend. Yeah. Like, hey, you should watch this movie. But if you've heard of that story before, you've heard of the real life case, I think the movie is well done. But be prepared for an uncomfortable sit.
I have heard of it before. Now that you said that.
Yeah. Well, be warned before watching it that it is uncomfortable, obviously watching it. The other movie is not as uncomfortable to sit through. It's a newer movie that stars Zachary Levi as real-life football player Kurt Warner, who had dreams of playing in the NFL. He went to college. He played college ball as a quarterback. He wanted to be in the NFL. He actually did go to the, I think, Green Bay Packers training camp, but he was cut almost immediately, and then he spent time basically just working at a grocery store, and then eventually he settled into some amateur football league. I don't remember specifically which one, but he played kind of amateur arena kind of football basically for a little bit of time, and then he finally got another chance to be in the pros. And he ended up playing in some Super Bowls, and he won a Super Bowl, and I think he was Super Bowl MVP. I believe he was MVP of the league one year. So it was a true like underdog story, a true kind of rags to, well, I don't know about rags to riches, but something to riches. I mean, but I thought it was good overall. I mean, it's I wanted to watch it because I like Zachary Levi, and it just seemed like it would be an interesting movie. I know we watched like The Express and we enjoyed that, So, and this movie also has Dennis Quaid, actually. Oh, there you go. Oddly enough, it has Dennis Quaid. So I wanted to watch it for that reason. And I thought it was good overall. I will say So when I was done watching it, I was looking at the people that made it, like, and the directors are two brothers who make a lot of like faith-based kind of films, those kind of things. So like, I don't know, Secret, Dare to Dream, and what's that one, the Shack or something like that. Those kinds of films, and I don't really watch those kinds of films. I know you don't really watch those kinds of films. It's not really our cup of tea. But I would say don't let that turn you off, because I didn't find this movie to be beating you over the head.
Preachy or anything.
No, I didn't find this movie to be preachy. I mean, Kurt Warner in the movie and in real life is religious, and his wife and family are religious. And so there is some of that in the movie. They go to church. They do talk about that kind of stuff. But I don't feel like it beats you over the head with that at all. So I would not, even though this movie is made by guys that have made those types of movies, I would say don't let that turn you off if those aren't the kind of movies that you normally watch. I mean, I feel like you can like this movie whether you enjoy those kinds of movies or whether you don't enjoy those kinds of movies. Honestly. But having said that, I do think the movie is very... I mean, yes, he doesn't get into the pros right away, and he has to kind of pay his dues and work at the grocery store, and they do go through some hardships. But I never really felt a lot of serious conflict in this movie. And he comes across as a saint. And maybe he is a saint in real life. But I feel like that may be the filmmakers kind of doing.
Not like a warts and all presentation. Or
exactly. Not at all. Not to me anyway. So I feel like that may be their touch at work, so it doesn't have anything that's really bad going on in the movie. So I think that maybe, and again, maybe this guy's life is all, sunshine and roses. I don't know. But the movie, because there's no, there's no warts and all kind of presentation, it does look a little bit sanitized maybe or something like that. So I think that if I had any problems with it, they would probably be that. But overall, it's a feel-good story. I mean, you root for this guy. You want him to make it. He did make it in real life, and he had a great career. And so I mean, if this sounds like your cup of tea, I would say watch it. The Express is a better movie, but I liked American Underdog. I thought it was pretty good.
I might have to check it out then. That sounds interesting to me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's what we've been watching. Now
it's my turn to forget to ask you. So,
That's
Officer and a Gentleman, you got Richard Gere trying to get into the Navy. What did you decide to pair an Officer and a Gentleman with?
Yeah, I don't know when. I think we came up with this pairing early on when we were talking about doing this show.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about basically Richard Gere's having issues with a superior, a higher up officer or commander or whatever. And so we chose another movie where the main character has some issues with a commanding officer, and that movie is From Here to Eternity, a very well-known movie, I would say. But movie that, have you seen it?
I have seen it, but I remembered nothing about it.
And I've never seen it,
yeah.
so so it's not that it has to be that way on Wednesdays, but it's nice that we choose some movies sometimes that neither of us or one of us hasn't seen. So that's what I decided to pair it with, From Here to Eternity. So check that out Wednesday. All right, guys. Well, please let us know what you think about Officer and Gentleman. Do you think it's good? Do you like it? Do you think it's schmaltzy like I do? Leave a comment below if you're watching us on YouTube, or shoot us an email, realshame@gmail.com. Please like, subscribe, share, do all that social media stuff for the episode. We really do appreciate that. And stay tuned on Wednesday when we watch From Here to Eternity and figure out if it takes an eternity to finish or not. And we'll let you know. We'll see you soon, guys. Bye.